Hi, welcome back to the Scent Advocate. I've been away for a while, about a month or so. And I guess life happens, and that was definitely the case with me. And that's what kept me away. Nothing terrible, just a lot of change and family first and always. So I am back and I'm especially excited because tonight I get to make a video and share it with all of you, but I also get to talk about an amazing fragrance house that I haven't seen as much chatter about on social media as I would have expected. It is the house of Marissa Zappas. And I think I've got some pretty good full bottle discoveries to discuss with you, and I've got some samples as well. I don't know if we'll get to those. I don't want to make the video too long, but hey, if you haven't given up on me, or if you're new to the channel and you like discussion about niche fragrances, maybe notes that are outside the mainstream, stuff that's a little edgy and not everywhere, then this is the place for you. If you would subscribe, I'd love that. And if at the end of the video you like what you hear and see, please give us a like. Let's get into it. The first fragrance, I think the one from this house that most people who know anything about the house are familiar with is Annabelle's birthday cake. And this is it. The bottle, I believe, has changed a bit. I understand that it used to be shaped differently. This is very much like an Art Deco looking, kind of a cylindrical etched glass bottle. Very, very heavy, very thick, and the top is very substantial, like a metal feel to it. So not flimsy at all, not plasticky at all. And the sticker is just adorable. I don't know if you can see this, but it is precious. Anyway, I love the packaging. I think it's a 50 ml EDP. I will put it in the notes if it turns out to be anything less than 50 ml. And one of the things I haven't done historically that I want to start doing, and I'll start tonight, is letting you know about what I spent on the fragrance. So to the best of my recollection, Annabelle's birthday cake, a 2021 EDP release, is $175, or that is what I believe I paid for it. So what does it smell like? The spray, by the way, is wonderful. I hate struggling with a fragrance bottle to get the perfume out. It's just not, it's annoying, especially at these price points. And I'm not saying this is the most expensive house. It's not. In fact, I think it's really well priced for a niche fragrance of this quality. Really, really well priced. So what does this smell like? It is a non-gourmand gourmand. Bottom line, it is a floral, sweet event, right? I've heard descriptions of this fragrance and I've read them, and it seems like people struggle to define it as a gourmand. And for me, that's not it. Annabelle's birthday cake is a birthday party. And Annabelle is the person who is the most popular among her friends. And you bet if you're getting an invitation to this party, you're coming. Everyone confirmed. Yeah, this is a classy, universally likable fragrance that has a powdery, irisy note to it, but it's also got something of a fruit connotation in there. It's got a sweetness, and I think that's where the gourmand comes in. It is a birthday party in a bottle, without question. Now, is Annabelle a little girl or is she an adult? I say Annabelle is a young adult. Yeah, in my imagination, this is a sophisticated, accomplished, strong young woman. The person who wears this or has this lingering in the air at her party is definitely making waves in the world. She does not go unnoticed. So what are the actual notes in this fragrance? Well, we've got heliotrope, lemon sugar, balloons, candied rose, tuberose, frosting cake, honeycomb, tonka, and cocoa. What do I get? I suppose the powdery floral is the heliotrope. To me, that often translates into a violet or an iris. a purple flower, the balloon. So I've heard that described or seen it described as a latex note. I guess if you really thought about it, the power of suggestion is significant. And I suppose if I really thought long and hard about it, it could be a powdery balloon, a pastel colored powdery balloon, when you blow it up with your mouth, it gets, there's a powdery note to it. I think it's like some kind of cornstarch. Anyway, and there's a fragrance to that, but I don't really get it. I'm just stretching here. Frosting, cake, honeycomb, tonka cocoa, absolutely, that's the cake part. So it's the beautiful flowers, it's the decor, it's the cake. All of that is fantastic. So I see this as a spring daytime fragrance. It definitely leans feminine, appropriate day or night. I wouldn't want to sweat in this. It feels happy, bright, Easter-like, spring celebrations, all good things. It is so uplifting. If a fragrance can have a vibe, this one's positive. So if you have not tried Annabelle's birthday cake, you are doing yourself a tremendous disservice. Check it out. Next in the lineup, we have Maggie the Cat is alive. I'm alive. Oh yeah, here we go. Same bottle, different sticker, equally cool. Lots of chatter and lots of commentary about this fragrance as well. Not as much that I've seen as Annabelle's birthday cake, but this is interesting because it's much more polarizing, it seems to me. I don't get at all what is polarizing in the negative. Not even a little. So what I've read was cat urine, it's fecal, it's animalic, and not even close. I don't get any of that. The notes for this are champagne, ambrette, peach, oak moss, violet, orris, amber, castoreum, which could be the animalic piece of it, right? That is a beaver excretion, sunlight, and solar notes, and amber. All of that together, I guess, could lead some to sense a bit of an animalic accord. I just don't get that. Once again, I think that the power of suggestion relative to the notes listings or notes that other people put up that are unofficial, I think that does a lot to sway people's opinions, which is why I'm not a huge fan of reading out the notes, but I realize it can be helpful sometimes, so I do. Now, this is a 2023 release. It's an EDP, and I paid about $190 for it before tax. And this, I believe, is 50 ml. So what does it smell like? This takes me back to the late 80s when women wore power suits with big shoulders and they had serious haircuts. Not if you were really young. If you were really young, you had seriously big hair, but serious, no. This is something I would see a young executive wearing in a boardroom. A strong, powerful, very, very intelligent, accomplished woman who, has the world at her feet and dresses to impress. This fragrance is strong, positive, universally likable. In my opinion, it definitely leans feminine. The dry down is a little more subdued, and I think you get more of that peach kind of fruity aspect to it. I do not get castoreum. No way. Even the oak moss, which I am a huge fan of, I am not picking up in this. The champagne, not really. No. Ambrette, yes. Violet, orris, yes. There's a softness to this. Sunlight, solar, amber, no. I suppose there's something of a resinous accord relative to the amber, but mostly I'm getting peach, orris, ambrette, and violet. This is very wearable, universally likable. I can't imagine this being offensive in any way. I think it's appropriate for day or night, but I wouldn't recommend sweating in it. Any season of the year, lovely, lovely stuff. I'm going to call this for short Maggie the Cat. Fantastic. Let me know what you think of this one. Did you get any animalics in it? I'm not getting it at all. Great stuff. Next, we have Queen Nzinga. Same packaging, different sticker. This one I tested for quite a while, and I wasn't sure how to take it because the notes for this are geranium, amber, and tamarind. And for me, tamarind is a kind of sweet and sour note, but I have a hard time picking it out in fragrances, especially this one. So this one cost $190. It's an EDP, and it is a 2022 release. So Queen Nzinga, I knew I loved it. I think it was just at a point where I had made quite a few purchases and I didn't know if I loved this enough. So I gave it a little bit of time. I came back to it and I was absolutely certain I wanted a full bottle. And so now here we are. Okay, so I read you the notes. I don't get those. I just don't get any of them. To me, this is a somewhat clean, soapy anise or licorice. And I love my licorice fragrances. I hate black licorice to eat, but I love the way it smells. And it's definitely something I grew into. The older I got, the more I appreciated it as a note. And this takes that wonderful note and combines it with a clean powdery accord that just makes it so special, so unusual. And I don't like having fragrances in my collection that are too similar. And I have a few anise licorice fragrances, and this is different. I also have quite a few powdery fragrances. This is unlike any of those. And each of those are unlike one another, by the way. This is feminine at the opening, but it dries down to unisex. I don't think anyone can go wrong with this. It is interesting. It is complex and right to the point. It makes me think of happy times in my youth where I was out in the sun playing in a way that gave me an endorphin rush, right? You know, maybe I was playing soccer or I was running around or doing something that was athletic. You know, you get that energized feeling. At the time in my life when I was just discovering an endorphin rush and it was warm out but not hot and it smells great. I smell great. The perspiration on your body smells great on your clean skin that maybe you just got out of the shower before you went out and you had that soccer game or that run. It's very approachable. It's not perfumey. It's natural. It's fantastic. I love it. The notes, as I said, just do not match with the experience I'm having. I think the simplicity of it is lovely. I think sometimes a lot of different notes just add to, you know, mental overload and trying to figure out what you're smelling. And in this case, I say scratch them all. This is a unique experience. Check out Queen Nzinga. Next is La Divina. Now this bottle, obviously, is different from these bottles. I believe this might be an older packaging, but I'm not positive. But this is the packaging. It's also very substantial. The top is heavy like the other packaging, but it's just a different shape. Obviously, it's a more simplified bottle. This is a 50 ml and it cost me $175. It is an EDP and a 2022 release. So the notes for this are, I'll just get this out of the way: rose, cassis, poplar, musk, oak moss, and sandalwood. You know I love oak moss. And if you didn't know, now you know. It's just a favorite of mine. It adds an earthy quality, a naturalness that for some reason I find absolutely addictive and compelling. I am addicted to wearing things with oak moss in it, and I am compelled to continue to explore the note. This fragrance is another one that I tested for a while, and I was on the fence because it's something of a floral. It's a rose forward cassis with a blonde wood and a musk, but I am way oversimplifying, right? I don't get the oak moss in this at all, and I'm so attracted to it. It's hard for me to figure out why in this fragrance, and then also in Maggie the Cat, I'm just not getting the oak moss, at least not as a standout note. One of the things about niche fragrances that I love is, and you hear this cliche all the time, oh, it's so well blended. I guess in my mind, what's happening is the combination is so skillfully made and the ratios are so perfect that it ceases to be oak moss, cassis, musk, rose, and it becomes its own thing. In fact, when I think about fragrance notes, I almost find it too simplistic and hardly worth the money if it's really linear. If you've got notes that are super easy to pick out, well, where's the mastery in that? Where's the genius in that? Isn't it about taking these elements, these notes, and combining them in a way that makes something different, unique, an olfactory experience that is singular, not linear? That's how I see it. This is a feminine leaning fragrance. It is fresh, clean, uplifting, crisp. It is not imposing. It is a floral with some depth. It is a floral for people who don't like florals, like me. I have very few that I really like, and rose is not one of them, but the rose fragrances that I have are very carefully curated, and I chose this. So you've heard the term maybe jammy rose. I guess it's like that with blonde woods and the musk underpinning to give it some backbone, and the musk becomes more prominent as it dries down. So does the wood, but I get a lot of musk, and not in a way that's funky. It's a very pleasant white musk. Beautiful stuff. Appropriate for any time of the year, but I see this more as a spring fragrance. It's for any age group. Once again, it leans feminine. Let me know what you think of this one. It's not one that I've heard a lot about, and I'm surprised because it is so likable. This is La Divina. Last is the fragrance that really made me explore this house more carefully. I smelled this once and I was hooked. And I said, this woman is a genius. Talking about Marissa Zappas, not me. She's done something really special, unexpected. I didn't know anything about the meaning of petrichor, but I sure looked it up after I smelled this. Yes, so petrichor is a fragrance, very natural in its state. It is the smell of the air when rain hits dry dirt. It is that I know a storm is coming kind of smell when you first feel it. That animal part of us feels like the weather is changing, and there's a foreboding wind blowing, and just the scent of in the distance where the rain has already started, that waft of petrichor, that warm, wet earth smell with a dusty element. That's what it is. And so the notes for this are wet earth, orris, vetiver, lemon, immortelle, ambergris, sandalwood, moss, and musk. Not oak moss, but moss. And I didn't test this one for very long before I got a full bottle. And this was my first Marissa Zappas bottle. Oh yeah. This is an experience. This fragrance leans masculine. It is the smell of a thunderstorm coming in the summer when the rain has started, maybe a mile away, and you get that smell, that smell of the coming storm. A little bit dry and dusty, but it's earthy. It's got that mossy, vegetal, maybe even a little mushroom, very natural smelling. If a thunderstorm had a smell, this would be it. And I've smelled linear thunderstorm fragrances, and if you know what I'm talking about, yeah, that's the one. So, and it was great. This has more depth, a lot more depth, because that was linear and this is not. But on my skin, it changes. That dusty accord becomes more skin, more human musky, more, your skin but better. I hate these cliches. But it's kind of like that. There's that element to it. So it becomes a very unique experience on my skin, and I just can't stop smelling it. It compels me. I would not wear this in the winter. I feel this is an amazing early morning, late evening, summer fragrance. Maybe a warm autumn day. This is the one. I don't know that everyone is going to love this. I think this appeals more to the fringe end of the niche lovers. And I could be wrong. Let me know what you think. But this put me right over the edge, and I instantly became a fan of this house, and I have been one ever since. And I'm so glad, because the other fragrances that this house makes are so different. Each one that I've experienced is really very unique. Incredible stuff. If you haven't tried out Marissa Zappas, I encourage you to do so. Let me know what you think in the comments about this house and what fragrances you've tried, whether or not you agree with my characterizations of the ones I showed today. Thanks so much for coming by, and once again, please like and subscribe. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.